I'm here in Boston with Black voters, and we're going to have a discussion about the 2024 presidential election. So sort of a roundtable, casual discussion here. How does everybody feel about the 2024 presidential election? Raise your hand if you're excited. Nobody's excited. Nobody's excited. Why are you not excited? Let's start with you, Jabari.
Why am I not excited? I guess a general sense of disinterest and disillusionment with U.S. politics. Of course, the Democrats and Republicans have different aims, different groups supporting them. But yeah, I see the election as largely a popularity contest, one with pretty big implications for the future of the country. But yeah, it doesn't inspire any joy or excitement in me to think about voting or engaging in electoral politics, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the consensus I've been hearing from a lot of people. Tia, why are you not excited about the election?
Well, I'm kind of not excited about it because, one, I kind of see it as a gigantic dumpster fire waiting to happen, and kind of like it seems like it's just going to be a push for the American people to have to choose between one person who doesn't have the people's interests at heart and another person who doesn't have the people's interests at heart. So it's kind of like, just feels like it's something that's just happening all over again.
Pastor Willard, you don't think that Kamala Harris or Donald Trump have the people's best interests at heart?
Definitely not. They're both warmongers. They're both party loyalists. They have no agenda for the Black people at all, which is a big thing, coming from our neighborhoods, that, they have no concessions for the people, but they want us to come out and vote. I think that there should be other options out there. I'm a firm supporter of Jill Stein personally, and she has a Black agenda, and she has a lot of things for all the people, and that's important. She wants to break down the cop city, and there's a lot of violence going on with people getting stopped and getting unalived on the streets.
You're not excited about the 2024 presidential election?
My reason is because the political party is basically being a monopoly game. They're not really taking what they're doing for the people seriously. All they care is about starting wars and filling their pockets with and leaving the people of America poor and basically wondering when they're going to be having their next meal, or if tomorrow they're going to be kicked out of their own homes. And the homeless population is growing each year, and they don't really care about the people at all. And if they really truly care about the people, they would stop trying to just taking money from people and actually help them when they need the most. And also that I'm not liking the direction that they're doing this war thing, unnecessarily hurting, and many people are no longer alive. It's heartbreaking, and they're showing no heart for what they're doing.
Yeah.
The American government and our military, we can stop all this, but they're just sitting back and doing nothing, or they're just helping it along.
Yeah, you brought up the war, and that brings me to foreign policy. I don't think there's been a time ever since I've been able to vote, where foreign policy has been this big of an issue. And that brings me to Gaza. Obviously, there have been thousands of people that have been protesting all over the world for a ceasefire, but also calling for an arms embargo. The Muslim community, Muslim voters have also been asking for an arms embargo and a ceasefire. At the Democratic National Convention, it was very clear that Kamala Harris's camp told one of the Palestinian American would-be speakers that they could not give their speech on the stage. Yet at the same time, they did allow Israeli family to speak on the stage. So to me, I kind of saw blatant discrimination from the Democratic Party, saying that no Palestinian American could speak on the stage. Yet there were Republicans that were on the stage. There were celebrities that were on the stage. And this is one of those issues where I think there seems to be this general consensus that Black Americans or Black voters don't care about what's happening in Gaza. And the sentiment that I'm getting from this particular group is that is definitely not the case when it comes to that. How many of you blame what's happening in Gaza to Kamala Harris? And I'm asking that question because originally, a lot of the heat was on Joe Biden. People were calling him Genocide Joe. And then once Joe Biden decided to drop out of that race and Kamala Harris was selected to be the Democrat nominee, meaning she did not go through a Democrat Party primary process and people did not vote for her for that, there seemed to be a shift where people who were blaming Biden were like, well, Kamala Harris is going to be different on this issue because she's more sympathetic to what's happening in Gaza. Since then, we have seen Kamala Harris say that she will not stop arms to Israel and that she would not condition any arms to Israel. Yet there are some that are still saying that you should still give Kamala Harris the chance and try to push her left. And I want to hear how everybody feels about that when it comes to the situation in Gaza. And I'll start to you, Pastor Wheeler.
We tried to push Bernie and we got nowhere. And we kept holding his feet to the fire. It's going to be the same thing with Kamala. Kamala has made it clear that she's not going to stop the weapons. Kamala has made it clear that she really doesn't care about the people in Gaza. Kamala has made it clear that she's going to uphold everything that Biden was originally doing. So I say it's twofold. I blame her and I blame Biden, but you're not going to get anything different when you get Trump, because they're both, about giving arms and money to Israel. We see this all the time that they're sending money, but what about their own people? They don't help the poor. They don't. They see people every day on the street, sleeping on the street. But what is their answer? To put them in jail? I really feel that, we need a government that cares about the people. Kamala doesn't care about the people. She cares about herself. She cares about the Democratic Party. I haven't seen her talk to one normal person. It's always a celebrity or somebody that's in their cabinet. And, we really don't feel that she is somebody who's going to be good for the people or the country. And she hasn't given us not one concession or told us what she's going to do that's going to help the people. Then the biggest thing, she's in office right now.
You brought up an interesting point about Kamala being in office right now, and that brings me this question. I'll go to you, Jabari. Do you think it was a mistake for Democrat leadership to select Kamala Harris? One of the things that Barack Obama wanted was an open primary when they were asking Joe Biden to step aside. Do you think, looking back on it, that it was a mistake not to have an open primary for the Democratic Party and to select Kamala Harris, knowing that she is a part of the Biden administration when it comes to the Gaza issue?
Well, do you mean a mistake in terms of how well this will allow them to achieve their own aims, or a mistake because it reduces people's representation within the system? Like a mistake that's going to negatively affect the Democratic Party, or is it a mistake that's going to negatively affect the people, or what do you mean?
A mistake that will negatively affect the Democratic Party.
Yeah, see, I don't know enough about yeah, I mean, it seems like there's like a large section of people who are pretty supportive of Kamala Harris. And I don't keep up with the news enough to know how much of an issue it's been for people, the lack of an open primary, in terms of how they see her as like a viable candidate or not, or one that deserves to be there.
Do you think that it was the best idea for them to choose someone that's a part of the current administration when the Democratic Party is already losing the majority of the Muslim vote?
Probably not. I mean, yeah, probably that's like a mistake. And I'm not sure how Muslim voters feel about Kamala Harris as like, or how they deviate from, I guess, the average opinion of a common person in the U.S. Like, are Muslim voters like particularly like up in arms about Kamala Harris being the...
Yeah, so I should explain. Recently, internal polls revealed that the majority of Muslim voters in the swing states in particular, and that's really what the election comes down to, is the swing states, are not supporting Kamala Harris. Michigan alone, there was an internal poll that showed that Kamala Harris is polling at like 15-ish% with Muslim voters. Jill Stein is at 40% with Muslim voters in Michigan alone. And for some reason, Donald Trump is still getting Muslim voters. I think he's like around about 4% in Michigan. That's just Michigan. But right now, Jill Stein is leading with the Muslim vote in Michigan. I believe also Arizona and Georgia. I have to double check on those two. But that's why I asked, like, was it a good idea for them to select someone that was already a part of the current administration with this particular issue?
Yes, I mean, insofar as like having a open primary allows the voters to express their opinions and wishes directly, and as like a means of uncovering the truth about what people want, then yeah, have an open primary, allow people to express their opinions, and I guess for the Democratic Party's own sake, doing so would pick the optimal candidate from their constituency. So yeah, that makes sense.
Do you think that this could cost the Democratic Party the election, the issue of Gaza alone?
Yes, because the way they're handling things now is that why should we vote for someone who's only going to continue this hatred and this destruction of human lives? And like, she's no different than any other candidate that was before her. But like I said, no matter who we vote for, it's only going to go the same direction: death and destruction. The homelessness is everybody all over the country, even America. And again, every politic everywhere, if they really truly care about their people, they'll end this. And if she really wants to show that she's different from everyone else, she needs to break that cycle.
If I may piggyback, with Kamala being one of the biggest supporters of the police, she would run the country as a police state. She would have no problem with killing people in all the countries in South America, in Gaza, and all the way up to Africa. She's not going to stop Netanyahu from doing anything that he already has in his mind. So we really don't need a president who is going to be a yes person to another president in another country. It's like he's the president of America. And
I've heard that quite a bit. Tia, do you think that if Kamala Harris were to call for an arms embargo, that she could get back some of the Muslim voters that she is losing?
In all honesty, I don't even think that she actually could, because with the way that Kamala Harris has basically been running things, she's been saying we're talking about it, but at the same time, she's been producing no results whatsoever. So basically, I think that for the Muslim voters is that even though she says all the stuff that she's going to call for, even if she calls for an arms embargo, everyone's going to be like, do it right now. And with the way that she is, she's going to be hesitant to do it. And basically the Muslim voters probably will still be all like, okay, whatever. Because, we've seen, kind of the piggyback on what Tanisha said, we've had a lot of politicians who basically over the years have basically made promises but failed to really, commit to them. And it's kind of started to come to a head with this election cycle. So I think that even if she says it, it probably might not get too many people to come over to her side, because it'll be all like, okay, another broke. I'm sure this is going to be another empty promise, especially with her basically, still allowing basically arms to go to Israel, and basically saying that Israel, no matter what they do, have the right to defend themselves against these Muslim countries that they're picking fights with.
And that brings me to Donald Trump, because the other statement that we continue to hear from people is that, well, if you don't support Kamala, then you're going to end up with Donald Trump. And I want to hear how everybody here feels about the possibility of another Donald Trump presidency. And I'll start with you, Pastor Wheeler.
That's like saying, would you like to die by fire or dynamite? It's all the same. Donald Trump. One thing I can say for him is when the pandemic started, he put money out to help the people. The checks they gave, and Biden made a promise. It was his first broken promise that his first 100 days he was going to give a $2,000 check. He didn't deliver. The check that came, the $1,400, was money that Donald Trump had already promised of a $2,000 check. So that $600 was still part of that $2,000 check. So Biden gave nothing to the people. He makes a lot of promises, but delivered nothing. Gives us a lot of wars. He gives a lot of money to the police state and all the other, the other place where they have the war? Ukraine. He gives money to them, but he has made a lot of promises to the people, and he hasn't given anything to anybody. So Donald Trump, Biden, Kamala, they're just different heads of the same hydra.
Jabari, are you afraid of another Donald Trump term?
I wouldn't say I'm afraid. I guess, yeah, I mean, it's certainly like raises a lot of questions. What would things look like under a Trump presidency versus Kamala Harris, like materially for everyday life? Like, I'm not sure how easy it is to predict how individual people's lives will be affected just day to day, how they will experience the world under each different presidency. I mean, Kamala Harris, to start, is like a kind of like a very like vacuous kind of, just kind of like a postmodern candidate, because like you go to her campaign website and there's like $50, $100, $200, and then you have to click through like 6 different things to get to any like policy, and so it's really unclear like what she's actually running on. And with like Trump's whole kind of crowd, there are like pretty explicit claims about what he wants to do with the country, and it's unclear to me what will become, or I guess like what new pressures will be inflicted on people as a result of Donald Trump getting elected. And of course we can talk about immigration, just fiscal policy. It seems like there's pretty decent bipartisan agreement on the policy with Israel. So maybe a question is just like, what do you imagine being different for people's day-to-day lives under Trump presidency? Like, what stands out as like big, big potential kind of themes with that?
Yeah,
this is just showing my own ignorance. I don't have a good sense for like what.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the things that people point to is a woman's right to choose. They're afraid that he's going to create a national abortion ban. That's what some people fear. There's also, he enacted the Muslim ban when he was president last time. So some people anticipate that he could do that again. And then there's also the rhetoric that Donald Trump will be even more of a genocider than Biden and Kamala, which is, that comment to me just drives me crazy because I said genocide is genocide. So why are you even like, that's just me. But those are some of the things that people are saying. And that brings me to you, Tia. Do you fear a second Trump presidency?
To be honest, I do not fear a second Trump presidency because for all of what they were saying about Donald Trump, nothing fundamentally changed. Basically, and this is just to me, there was no difference between an Obama presidency, a Trump presidency, or a Biden presidency. If anything, I kind of seen it as kind of like, the Trump presidency just made it where, where Biden, Harris, and the Democrats felt that they could basically be can be even more incompetent, and then after that and yet think that that Trump was basically a scary enough boogeyman that you could say like, you don't want Trump anymore. Whereas under the Democrats, the rent moratorium basically just petered out. Roe versus Wade basically, just fell apart, and basically a whole bunch, this entire thing with Gaza, even though we know that this is something that's basically been happening even with presidents before the two of them.
It's interesting. You mentioned a little bit there with the economy, and it seems right now, according to the polls, that Donald Trump is doing well with the economy and immigration. He's polling higher than Kamala Harris with those two particular issues. And that makes me wonder as well, there has been a shift where more Black male voters are wanting to support Donald Trump, but also according to the Morning Consult poll and the segment that was on Morning Joe, Morning Consult pollsters said that Kamala Harris is struggling not just with Black men, but also with white men and young men, so just men in general. And I often wonder if the economy and immigration are those two factors that are having people shift in a different direction. How many of you feel that the economy is doing well right now? Raise your hand if you feel the economy's in a good place. No. What about the jobs report that Biden and Kamala said they've created all these jobs? No? No, nothing with that either.
I was at the store and was getting eggs, and the eggs were $10 and change. I can remember 4 years ago, and they were $3.99.
I've been basically, applying. I've been also, kind of like in the job search and everything. And there was a time, there was one time I applied to this, to basically, I don't remember if it's FedEx or UPS, but, they were basically desperate for people, but, they wound up closing the position, even though they were very much understaffed and everything.
Yeah, there was a report I talked about recently that is not being discussed. I think people need to hear about the Biden-Harris administration when they talk about the jobs. And that is that this year, Black unemployment actually surged above every other demographic in this country. It surged to 6.4%. And they're not talking about that. When you think about the economy, one of the things that a lot of people mention are the grocery store prices. Like the grocery prices are still high. But the Biden administration has said that inflation has come down, and they said, at least Kamala Harris has made a promise to stop corporations from price gouging. Do you believe that that is something that would happen?
Nope.
And why is that?
Because it's not hurting them, because all our hard-earned money is going to them. And for them, it's like, it's just chump change. So they could afford it. It's just we as the people who have to work like almost darn near like 3 jobs just to live. in to afford money for food, clothes, and rent. So, and for them, it's like, it doesn't matter.
You know, as far as the rent situation, the rent just continues to go up, but your earnings are not going up. We live in a complex where it doesn't matter if you're getting extra money or not, they're still going to go up on your rent. And we've seen a lot of people in the neighborhood being evicted, especially after the moratorium fell. But it was supposed to be a promise that this wouldn't happen to the people. So, you know, we're asking and we've been pleading the government for years, where's your help for your people?
That's a good point. How many of you would like another option? Raise your hand if you would like to support someone that's not a Republican candidate or a Democrat candidate.
And that they'll do the job?
I guess I can raise my hand as well. I'm the host, but I guess I can also raise my hand. Yeah, so this is interesting because the Democratic Party has had a hold on the Black voter base in the United States for quite some time. And over the years, we are seeing a shift. No Democrat candidate has been able to get the amount of support that Barack Obama received with Black voters back in 2008 and 2012. It has decreased since then. And now that brings me to the point of Kamala Harris, where she is not polling well with Black voters when you compare her to Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. If you're open to other options, who would you be open to? Let's go to Jabari.
Well, I guess with me it's a more a question of what am I actually critiquing about the system, and what would an individual person or I guess cabinet in the role of executive office need to be, in which ways would they need to be different in order for me to actually believe in their ability to make positive change for people? Yeah, I haven't thought about that so much. Yeah, Jill Stein at least seems to be doing meaningful work to interact with everyday people, and I think her campaign does do a much better job of representing the interests of everyday people. I mean, I think so. Like the whole thing with like younger males moving in favor of Trump, I think is like. So, I mean, one, just like, I think right populism is good at like, you know, kind of capitalizing on economic downturn and a sense of a loss of community within the country that causes people to feel like there's no meaning in their lives, causes people to feel like there's no, no possibility of any like real meaningful like change happening in their life, no upward mobility, etc. And yeah, so I mean, populism and coming from the right is like, it's a very like, they're very good at like curating a message to this sense of both betrayal and yeah, just kind of disinvestment that a lot of people feel. I think there's also like, especially among like younger men, like a sense of there's like an anti-authoritarian appeal that the right has, I think, where it's like they especially on like the like cultural war front, like a lot of people feel that like people are in power are making me police my language or making me police other people around me. I don't feel like I can say the things that I want to say or be the person that I am. And this leads me to overcorrect in this direction, which creates hate and creates, you know, the inability to form meaningful bonds with people who are different than you. And, but I mean, point being that like, yeah, when people see this like alternative option, it's like these like, you know, the cool guys who like don't follow the system in this like very superficial way, who's, you know, are supported by the same people. There's plenty of bipartisan lobbies who, you know, are just trying to, just making the world worse, and like, so yeah, it's like, I think there is an element of like anti-authoritarian appeal that like gets younger men interested in this like modern right. that's developing around Trump, but also kind of past him with, I mean, there's somebody who's going to like be able to like replace his like, his like magnanimity, like his presence, right? There's nobody who's going to be like that level of like a fuck you to the entire system, right? Like, there's Tucker Carlson who kind of fulfills a similar role, but even then, there's like, I think far less. I guess he's like far less of like a charismatic figure in people's minds. Although people do think that he's like, I guess, in search of truth behind what people conceptualize as like the deep state or whatever.
Well, Pastor Wheeler, who would you support and why if you had an alternative option?
I would say Jill Stein also, because Jill Stein connects with the regular people. She'll come out and he'll help you fight your fight. She's been in battles over Israel battle and the Palestinian people. She's been arrested because for standing up for the people. It's not something that you would find a Joe Biden or a Kamala or even Trump to come out and stand for the people. The people need a president that's going to stand for the people. We've had enough people to come in and give us empty words and empty promises, but never given us anything that we could actually say that's tangible. I think that the appeal for Trump is that Trump says what he means and means what he say. If he say I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's something that seems to appeal to a lot of the people that I talk to, is they go, well, hey, Trump said he's going to do this and it's going to happen. So, that's one of the biggest things with him, is that people, they can gravitate to what he's saying, even though some things he make up. But when it comes to our vice president, she hasn't delivered anything. She was given the border. She was asked, did she go visit the border? And she said no, but I haven't been other places either. That's kind of troubling. We don't need somebody who's going to not deliver for their own people. Tia spoke of earlier, and Tanisha did, the homelessness. Here in the neighborhood, we when we drive down a place called Melina Catch, you see people sleeping out on the street, and it's heartbreaking. But the people ask, they say, how are you working for the school department and you live in the housing project? You can't afford to move out because they continue to go up on everything. So we as Americans, we feel you're kind of darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. If you select one, this person might cut off my arm, but the other person's gonna cut off my leg. But you're gonna lose a part of you either way you go.
This is an interesting point. So you guys don't think that Kamala Harris sitting down and hosting a town hall with Oprah is connecting with the everyday people?
That's also a thing. Yeah, there's no sense of like temporal progression in culture for these people. Like at the DNC, there was the whole thing about like getting I forget who, but there were like a bunch of artists who were popular in like the late 90s, and they see this as kind of representative of like Black culture in America, and it's just so pandering to people with these very outdated and kind of at this point kind of mostly culturally irrelevant, at least relative to the people who are most relevant nowadays in culture. As being kind of a basis for appeal to people, to people's cultural sensibilities. And so Kamala Harris talking to Oprah, does anyone under 30 care about that?
Does anybody over 50 care?
That's it's a really good point there. It's a good point. Tanisha, if you could vote for an alternative, who would you choose and why?
Well, all honesty, I'd rather vote for a fictional character because this is one character. His name is Rengoku. He's from Demon Slayer. I will vote for him hands down because when he said when he makes a promise, he actually delivers. He actually will actually do what he says. If he says he's going to defend the people, he's going to defend the people. And I wish I could have actually worn Rengoku shirt. I would say Rengoku 2025.
Tanisha, you just snitched on us, you know.
Because all honesty, real politicians, I really don't, you can't trust or believe, you can't believe anything that they say. Because no matter who you vote for, you're going to get royally screwed. So I'd rather pick a fictional character.
Tia, if you had to choose an alternative, who would you choose and why?
I mean, I can't really falter for that because I said that I was going to vote for a tree or Carmen Sandiego, but basically, if I was to vote for an actual real life person, honestly, Stein would be the only person that I would actually that I would basically consider because a couple of hiccups notwithstanding, she was the one who basically, even as far back, she was basically standing up for the Native Americans with the Standing Rock issue and everything. Can you tell? I would basically, happily, wait for a person to point out the times where basically, Harris or Trump or Biden did any of those type of things, and it wasn't a photo op or anything like that.
Like Obama with the Flint water, or holding the cup up and even though he didn't drink the water.
Or Ocasio-Cortez and her getting arrested and basically just holding her hand behind her back and stuff like that. Things like that.
Do you feel that like the Democratic Party does not take the Black community seriously? And I ask that question meaning that it seems like to me they only tend to come around when it's time to get votes. Do you feel like the Democratic Party has or has not produced real tangibles for the Black community?
I think that they don't. I think that it's kind of a combination of not taking us seriously and taking us seriously at the same time because, they don't take us seriously enough to basically actually offer something that's serious because, let's be serious. Even with the George Floyd Act, it was like, meh. But at the same time, they don't want people to be serious about withholding their votes or basically looking at other candidates and stuff like that.
Jabari, do you think the Democratic Party has produced tangibles for the Black community?
For the Black community, no. For the, I guess, yeah, I mean, again, like going back to culture, there is like the kind of Black section of the professional managerial class that I think does see a lot of kind of windfall from the, whatever prosperity is created by the Democratic Party for themselves. And they will share that with like Black people of high enough class. Like if they're within a certain section of society where, coming out of like large liberal institutions, getting PMC jobs, these are people who I think do receive a bit more consistent attention from the Democrats, but it's like almost solely a consequence of them having a higher class position.
So this is where class comes into play, and I want to pivot to you, Professor Willier, as well. Do you feel the Democratic Party, aside from what Jabari was saying about the professional managerial class, when it comes to lower income Black voters or poor Black voters, do you feel that the Democratic Party is making that outreach?
Definitely not. Being a person since 18, they voted Democrat up until, Bernie Sanders came in. I feel that they take advantage of the lower class voters because they tell them that we're going to do all these things for you, but you have to give us time to do it. As it was with Obama, Obama told us if we voted him in, he was going to do things, turn things around for the community. But he's 4 years went by. He said, if you give me 4 more years, I'm going to turn it around, and it never turned around. I think this is going to be the same thing all over again. It's going to be another Obama administration if we want to Kamala Harris in office. She's not going to do anything for the community. I think the only thing she will do is she'll ramp up the police state. More of us will find ourselves incarcerated. More of us will find ourselves in court. She's not going to pivot from who she was and who she is.
I can see that considering her past. Tanisha, what do you think about the Black community and the Democratic Party, and why do you feel that Black voters still support the Democratic Party even though the Democratic Party is very clear from around the table that they're not producing real tangibles for the majority of the base?
Well, I strongly believe it's because people, I know everyone's going to get angry about it, but people are brainwashed to believe that only the Republicans and the Democrats are the only ones that are out there. And they already got people believe that the Republicans are they're the supervillains of our country. And so in every election, they always try to do hey, these people are scary. You don't want them in, especially all you people who are minorities. And if you vote us in, that you'll be fine, you'll be safe, and you will get the things that we promise. But when people do, nothing happens. It seems like we struggle more. We basically we're not. There's no real difference that they say that they're going to change. There's never going to be a change.
It's. Oh, go ahead, Tia.
I was going to say, and if I could piggyback on that, because if you remember when it was Clinton versus Trump, after Trump was basically, after Trump was elected and everything, the first thing that happened was that nothing was good during the Obama thing. There was still police killings, brutality and all that other stuff. But then during Trump's time, when a Black person was attacked by the police, I remember specifically because then Bill Maher turns to Dr. Cornel West and says, "Don't you think that this wouldn't happen underneath Clinton?"
And also that more false arrests is growing each year.
Yeah, because that.
And people being wrongly accused of things that they're not really doing.
Yeah, because wasn't it that the police killings are continuing to increase and things like that?
Yes.
The police. So what I'm hearing is that you guys feel that both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are pro-police state.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, yeah, people are talking about, I'm trying to remember why I think this. There's I don't know, I saw some number of videos where it seems like in areas where there are, in these, especially lots of tent cities, people, just areas where homelessness has always been a big issue, but it's, kind of exponentially, increased in the last, couple decades. In areas like these, it seems like people who have power within the like city government and just police stations across, and I guess that work in these areas. The topic of like broken window policing is like having like a resurgence. Like people just like outright saying like this is what we need. We need to bring this back to areas like this. With I guess the goal, yeah. I mean, from their point of view, the goal just being like, okay, if we, punish minor offenses very heavily, then this leads to less major offenses. Of course, that doesn't work because if you get arrested for anything, and especially if the barrier for getting arrested for how much of a violation you need to make goes down, this just means you're going to have a harder time getting a job, having a harder time doing anything after, like post that. So sure, people might see it as a deterrent, but it doesn't work that way in real life because there's inertia. People are already doing what they're doing, and then if you just say, okay, we're going to change this by punishing people more, it's just going to have the exact opposite effect. I just thought it was interesting that people are using that term pretty openly. Broken windows policing again.
Yeah, and they, as far as the police, they walk on all your amendments. The laws that they're supposed to be upholding, when you can't even talk back to them and say, wow, I didn't run that light to tell you to shut up and shut you down. If you don't stop talking, you go to jail. That's something that should not be. If the person is just trying to, the word got stuck in my head. Forgive me. But if they're just trying to tell you what happened, and they go, "Oh no, I didn't run that light. I was already on the other side by the time it turned red." If the officer does not like that, you're going to jail.
Right. I haven't seen many improvements with policing. People mentioned body cam, and body cams was a part of police reform, but the police officers have been known to turn those body cameras off. So I haven't seen any real accountability for the police aside from the conviction of Derek Chauvin, but that's like 1 in a million. Usually that doesn't happen. The Democratic Party does not have reparations on its platform. And this has been discussed for years. There's different, organizations like the ADOS organization has been trying to get the Democratic Party to get on board for this. There have been reparations that have been granted to other groups in this country, in particular Japanese Americans that were part of the internment camps. But anytime a Democrat candidate is questioned about this, the response always seems to be, we have to study it, when the studies have already been done. Kamala Harris is doing that right now. Obviously, Donald Trump is not in support of reparations.
Right.
He acknowledged that work has been done by, the slaves in this country, and, we helped build the country. But he is not on board for reparations. That is very clear. So I want people to stop spreading that lie.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the fact that the Democratic Party does not have reparations as part of their platform? Let's go to Tanisha.
Honestly, I don't think they're not going to do it. The reparations thing, they're just using that like it's like a cat's toy, because they're waving it in front of people's faces, but they're saying we're gonna wave the cat toy towards you, but we're not gonna let you play with it. But they're not serious about the reparations thing. They know that people really need it, and they're basically using it as, hey, you vote for us, we'll make sure you get that money.
Yeah,
and then when people do vote for them, and then they get nothing out of it, nothing.
Yeah, it's kind of like another Pied Piper type, and just another version of the Pied Piper thing. And even though they know that, Tanisha said that people need it, but no, it's actually kind of an obligation considering what the government basically has allowed to happen to what to basically the slaves at the time, and basically, following then kind of like the financial persecution that's basically happened to like the descendants of slaves and everything. They know it's something that it's something that it's owed, and that but the thing is that how they look at it is like, because we got to remember, a lot of the politicians that are in there right now, basically, they were the ones they were some of those pro-segregationalists and everything back in the civil rights era. So a lot of them basically don't believe in, so for the Democrats, they don't believe in reparations, but they know that because, as you were saying earlier, they lean heavily on basically black voters and everything. Whenever it brings up, that they use it as a cat's toy to try to get them back in line.
Yeah, and we can't forget that Joe Biden he told those civil rights leaders that nothing is going to happen for you, right? Like, now is not the time. And when it comes to, other groups, we have seen they can make now the time. And I think that's important for people to hear. How do you feel about that, Jabari, that like they don't have that as a part of their platform?
So, yeah, I guess I wonder why they aren't leaning into the false promise of it more. Like, it does seem like something they could leverage with a, vague claim to commitment to some form of reparations. Maybe this alienates other parts of their constituency more, but I kind of doubt that. I think, I don't know, based on absolutely nothing, because I'm not an economist, but like, my version of reparations would just be to like cancel all credit debt, like at once. Like, just all at once.
Cancel all credit debt.
Yeah. And then,
Would that include medical debt?
yeah, of course. Yeah, credit and medical debt. All just cancel every little bit of it. But I mean, like, yeah. Maybe we'll make the argument about if we implemented some form of UBI, like immediate consequence of that would be inflation, because prices would just raise to correct for this new income that everyone has. And you could see like a similar thing being possible with reparations, like if there was some large sum of money given to like black people in the U.S., then maybe the immediate consequence of that would be like, kind of redistribution of both taxes and inflation to communities where there are now lots of black people with a bit more money, and then immediately corporations will parasitize that and raise prices and make it accelerate gentrification, and just try to take whatever they can get of the reparations as soon as they can. And of course, they wouldn't admit that in a claim to want to implement a policy of reparations, but yeah.
All right, final question. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, if I could jump in on the reparations.
Sure.
It was promised to the people years ago, and it was supposed to come from the war chest. Today we call the war chest the military-industrial complex. They asked, how will we pay that? If you put so much money into wars, if you took that money and paid the debt that you owe, there's a saying that I love when they talk about reparation and the people who should get reparations is they stole us, they sold us, now they owe us, and they need to pay the bill. They can pay for everything else. Why can't they pay what they owe and what is due? A lot of us shy from this discussion, but we should talk more about it, because they could give money to everybody else. They could pay reparations to everybody else. But when it comes to Black Americans, they don't want to even discuss it. It's always, we have to study it. We have to look at it. Clyburn and so many others have talked about it, but no one has never ever done anything really that's going to make it tangible for the people.
Don't forget, they one time talked about DNA tests to make sure you're part of that group.
Yeah, that's
That's something that we as Black Americans need to stop worrying about, is where's the money coming from? The money was already allocated. And they need to, just go into the military where they're putting billions of dollars. And what it would do is it would help the economy, because then Black people have more to spend, and we will be able to do more. Kamala said that she's going to give, I think it's $25,000.
Is it $25,000 or a $25,000 tax credit, or up to $25,000?
Or the possibility we might think of 25. But if you give reparations to the people, I think everything would go up. You know, there would be more houses bought. There would be more stores that because the money would go right back into the economy.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people don't understand. Final question: who is winning the election?
Oh, they say it's Trump.
I'm going to have to say that, I would have to say, the winners for the election is either Stein or the Couch.
Stein or the couch? Who's winning the election, Jabari?
Not us.
Not us.
Not us. Not us. Pastor Wheeler, who's winning the election?
I like his answer. I think that that I know it's probably going to be kind of controversial, but I think Israel is winning the election.
APAC is winning the election.
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting. Well, thank all of you so much for your time.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate it.
All right, Eric, that's a wrap.
Like and subscribe.
And thumbs up.